And he has a gun? You know, I should have known I was autistic with how much I loved Sonic as a kid. What's good, hookers? I'm a literal nerd, and today we're on Trope Trial, the show where I, your favorite douchebag, present to you a character who's been falsely accused of being a certain trope, and show you, the ladies and gentlemen of the viewership, the evidence for why they aren't. The defendant today is Shadow the Hedgehog, the ultimate lifeform. Mr. the Hedgehog has been accused of being nothing more than a shallow edgelord, a cringe edgelord, if you will. Many of these detractors will point to his appearance in the failed spin-off series Sonic Boom.
You're weak, and you know what makes you weak? Your loyalty to your pathetic friends.
His few and far between appearances in the 2010s.
Worthless. Don't show your pathetic face around me ever again.
And his own game, Shadow the Hedgehog.
This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
Damn, I really got my work cut out for me, huh? While these depictions are canon, these make up small parts of Shadow's 20 plus years of existence. These snippets have caused detractors to create this oversimplified and exaggerated caricature of Shadow the Hedgehog. This assertion, however, is false. In addition, my client and I are providing a counterclaim for these false accusations, and claiming that he is instead a Byonic hero. I will not only prove that Shadow the Hedgehog is not an edgelord, but also that he is a modern-day Byonic hero.
I put hot sauce on everything, from Twinkies to milk. It's what I do as the ultimate life form.
I literally debated on whether or not to include this, cause bitch, you know who Shadow is. If you were a kid in the 2000s up until the early 2020s, you know who Shadow is. If you had a son or daughter who liked Sonic in the 2000s, you'd recognize those hot sauce hair streaks and jet boots anywhere. But I'm gonna say it anyway. Shadow the Hedgehog is Sonic's main rival in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. He was introduced in Sonic Adventure 2 back in 2001, and is the leader of Team Dark, along with Titties McFatface Rouge.
Haha. Women win.
And internalized robophobia incarnate, Omega.
Does it involve annihilating robots?
No.
Keep these two in mind for later. Shadow was created in the Ark by Professor Gerald Robotnik in order to cure his granddaughter, Maria, of her disease. However, Gunn, yes, that is their name, decided to raid the Ark and kill everyone aboard in order to cover up the experiments that were going on there. Namely, the Biolizard. The only survivors of the massacre were Shadow, Professor Gerald, who was killed via firing squad after he was deemed no longer useful, and this ugly bitch. With Maria's death, Shadow wishes to carry out her dreams of wanting humanity to be happy.
No, you're fat. Lol. Get wrecked, you fat scrub man. I'm gonna go fuck your wife now.
Unlike the previous video on Ramona Flowers, which you should totally watch by the way, link in the iCard and description, we have to define 3 different terms. The first being edgy, the second being edgelord, and the last being Byonic hero. Some people online will use the first 2 interchangeably, but for the sake of argument, I will be separating the 2, as I need one to define the trope itself, and the other for its exaggerated parody. Edgy is kind of like charisma in that it's a bit of a nebulous term that everyone uses, but no one knows the exact definition of, and it shows.
I know some of these words.
Finding a definition for edgy was a little harder than expected. Most online definitions have no relation to character tropes. Even TV tropes didn't have one. Darker and edgy refers more to tone shift. Bad butt is the kid-friendly version of edgy. The closest definition I could find was the 90s action hero, but it's more of a character archetype than a trope itself. And it can be used to describe characters that aren't edgy, like Lady from Devil May Cry, while also being non-applicable to characters who undoubtedly are edgy, like Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho, and Guts from Berserk. The best definition I found was in Wiktionary, which states, cool by virtue of being tough, dark, and badass. Simple enough. For Edgelord, a good friend of the channel, Sean the MK Ninja, unintentionally came up with the best definition for Edgelord, all while describing Shadow in his titular game, saying,
he had a tragic past, he held guns, he swore, he was dark and brooding, but that's not a character. That's almost a parody trying to be so cool that it loops back around and is kind of lame.
The last trope I need to define is paramount. See what I did there? For my counterclaim, and it's the term Byonic hero. TV Tropes defines it as a character notable for being sullen, withdrawn, hard to like, and hard to know, but usually possessing a rich inner life and a softer side accessible only to a special few. It then states that the traits of a Byonic hero are the following, which shall be discussed later in its own section. Now that we've defined the 3 key tropes, I need to clarify that I will only be discussing the mainline games. So, no Sonic Boom, as that is a separate continuity, no comics, even though I know the IDW ones are canon, but I haven't read them all, and no spin-offs, with the exception of his titular game, for obvious reasons. I will, however, be counting Sonic X Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings, as 1, it's canon, 2, it's shadow-centric, and 3, it's a direct preamble to Sonic X Shadow Generations, the game. Got it? Good. Now, let's help Shadow find the computer room.
I'll point at you also.
I'm not in the sky, Dick Nips.
Okay, I'm gonna have to pull a Jordan B. Peterson, ew, and ask what this definition is referring to as tough, dark, and badass. For tough, we can infer that they mean rough, strong, and resilient. With dark, they mean sinister, macabre, mysterious, and depressing. What they mean by badass is pretty obvious, as both these definitions apply. Both tough and belligerent, as well as impressive in skill, are quintessential to being edgy. I think we can all agree on these 3 main traits to describe edgy characters. I have to specify this because often I'll see people create their own definitions when discussing the topic, and these definitions tend to be vague. I would also like to clarify that edgy isn't inherently bad. Many great characters are edgy to an extent. It's only when the character becomes an edgelord that it gets bad. So now we must ask ourselves, is Shadow the Hedgehog really an edgy hedgy? Yes. Most people don't have an issue with me saying this, but for those who do, let me explain. Let's start with tough, a quality he has shown physically and in personality. Physically, I mean, look at this man. He flipped a school bus. He clearly does not give a flying fuck about them kids. Personality-wise, he has a rough and gruff exterior and tends to go straight to the point in any and all conversations, whether it's getting missions from Rouge or confronting the good doctor. He's also tough emotionally, as he's had his memories fucked with, died, trudged through getting amnesia, got tricked by his alien baby daddy, seeing robot clones of himself, being lied to about being a robot clone, finding out that he's part alien, finding out that his closest friend will betray him in the future, almost got possessed by said alien baby daddy, and oh yeah, everyone he loved getting killed by the government, only to have said loved ones come back due to time shenanigans, just for them to get sent back in time at the end. Yeah. I can't deny he's tough. He's had so much shit thrown at him, and he's come the other side swinging. All that coupled with a devil-may-care attitude, and you've got yourself a certified tough bitch. Next is dark, the most in-your-face part of being edgy. The part most people will point to and be like, ow, the edge. For Shadow, I mean, well, look at him. He has a black and red color scheme inspired by Spawn, a permanent scowl, and he's always brooding. The sinister side of him is more present in Shadow the Hedgehog, and maybe Sonic Adventure 2, as well as Forces, where he calls Infinite a weak bitch. However, this sinister side is in one game, while the second one is him being manipulated by Professor Gerald.
I think the fuck not, you trick ass bitch.
And the third is him being a certified big meanie. So it's not all that prevalent. He's more brooding and no nonsense, if anything. Last one here is badass and yeah.
Did we do that together? Was that like a gay thing?
It's always a gay thing.
The MK Ninja once said, a parody trying to be so cool that it loops back around and is kind of lame, when describing Shadow in his first 3 appearances. I will be using this as my definition for fictional edgelords, as it pretty much sums up what I'm referring to. This is how other people describe Shadow and is their key argument. I would also like to clarify that this isn't me calling out anyone in particular. Just like with the last video, this is just me clarifying a false notion. So now, ladies, gentlemen, and variations thereupon, let me ask you this. Is Shadow the Hedgehog an edgelord? No.
You what?
Wait, hold up, let me explain. Yes, Shadow is in fact an edgelord, in Shadow the Hedgehog.
Look how pathetic they are. I don't have time for these humans.
Death to all who oppose me.
At last, revenge. Where's that damn 4th Chaos Emerald? With the power of these emeralds, I'm going to destroy this damn planet. This is who I am.
He doesn't display any of these characteristics in any other game. Again, not counting Sonic Boom, as it is set in its own continuity, changed the personalities of half the cast, and was a total failure. Before his titular game, he was chill and brooding, and then went back to being chill and brooding in the very next game, Sonic 06. The closest he's done to try and seem cool to the point of parody in the modern era is in Sonic Forces, where he tells Rouge he doesn't need backup, and when he calls Infinite pathetic. However, let's just say that for the sake of argument, that Shadow is being an absolute edgelord in this game. That's still 2 games versus the 4 where he isn't. Shadow is just kind of chill and has an edgy design and exterior, but not to the point of parody. He has a softer side that only a select few characters get to see, which leads into my counterclaim.
He thinks I'm a pervert now.
Now, I'm sure most of you have never heard of this trope. I must admit, I didn't either until I started doing research for this video. However, it's a trope that you are familiar with, as it's sort of a predecessor to the jerk with a heart of gold. Like I stated earlier, the Byonic hero is a character notable for being sullen, withdrawn, hard to like, and hard to know, but usually possessing a rich inner life and a softer side accessible only to a special few. This is our counterclaim. Shadow is not an edgelord, but rather a Byonic hero. It is worth mentioning that edgy characters can be considered Byonic heroes if they meet the criteria, but edgelords cannot. Edgelords by definition are shallow and try so hard to seem cool that they end up parodying themselves, while Byonic heroes are defined by their depth. So now, once more, I will ask you a question. Is Shadow the Hedgehog a Byonic hero? Well, yes. Let's start with the obvious, which is in the definition I provided. Shadow is sullen and withdrawn. He's always seen brooding and doesn't like thinking or talking about his feelings. Hard to like and hard to know. Yeah, especially in his debut game, where his past is a mystery to us, up until the very end. Not only that, in SA2, he pretty much made an enemy of everyone he came across, even Rouge to an extent. However, he eventually lets her and Omega in and tells them about the Ark and what happened 50 years ago. In Sonic 06, you know, the game Shadow Glazers love to death, Omega confides in Shadow and Rouge that in the future he will be the one to imprison Shadow. In response, Rouge defends him and has this to say:
"Even if you believe everyone in the world will be against you, know that I'll always remain by your side. Remember that."
You can tell these 3 are friends through and through. And let's not forget about Maria Robotnik, Shadow's very first friend. We don't see much of their relationship, but recently, Dark Beginnings showed us what Shadow and Maria's friendship was like. They were friends, they were vulnerable together, and they trusted each other.
You have a big heart. It may be difficult for you to express it, but I know that deep down, you really do care.
I can 1000% classify this as him having a richer and softer side. Also, let's look at this scene. An edgelord would not have gone out of his way to save the guy. He would have instead killed him for getting in his way, or because he's the enemy, or for whatever fucking reason. A Byonic hero, however, like Shadow, has heroic traits, hence the name. And this is something that Shadow clearly has displayed not only in this scene, but previously. Especially with him saving the world like 3 different times, like come on. Now if you're still unconvinced that Shadow is a Byonic hero, TV Tropes provided a list of typical traits of said character archetype. I'm going to skip points 1 and 5, the latter because we've already established that he has a troubled past, and the former because,
Well, I don't judge. To each his own. I guess every garbage can has its lid, but...
With that being said, let's start with point 2. Intelligent, cunning, and adaptable. Shadow is most definitely this. In Sonic 06, Shadow was able to figure out that the Chaos Emerald Inflame Core was a trap. Next is point 3. Emotionally conflicted or moody. Bitch, have you seen this man? He's always grumpy. I even mentioned earlier that he has a permanent scowl.
Look at our eyebrows.
Jokes aside, this was definitely him in the game Shadow the Hedgehog, as he is conflicted on whether or not to follow Black Doom's orders, all because he seems to know about his past. And let's not forget Sonic Adventure 2, where in the last story, he wasn't sure about what Maria really wanted until Amy reminded him of her. Okay, I hear you say, but what about the modern games?
I'll stop Rouge. Use Chaos Control. Stop this moment in time.
Shadow? No. I don't want to be frozen in one place in time. Besides, your friends need your help.
But you don't know what's going to happen.
Intensely self-critical is point number 4. For that, I would say, watch the first episode of Dark Beginnings.
I should be the key to all manner of medicines, curing you.
Points 6 and 7 are almost interchangeable. Having values and beliefs come into conflict with the status quo, and having an intense drive to live out his philosophies, which may come into conflict with others. Literally the premise of Sonic Adventure 2 and Shadow the Hedgehog. Both games have him go against the status quo because of what he believes in. In SA2, it's his belief that Maria wanted humanity destroyed thanks to Professor Gerald's trickery.
You tell that trick bitch her ass is mine!
And in his own game, it's because Black Doom is dangling the secrets of his past in front of him, and Shadow is willing to do anything to uncover them. Even if that means coming to blows with Gun and his friends. Point 7 even highlights that this may lead him to being treated as a criminal, which happens in SA2 and can happen in half the pathways of Shadow the Hedgehog. Even in Sonic 06, it's revealed that humanity will persecute him in the future. And in response, Shadow has this to say.
If the world chooses to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have.
Shadow, you're an asshole, man.
You are what you eat, Sonic.
What the?
On the count of being an Edgy the Hedgy, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of being an Edgelord, we find the defendant not guilty. On the count of being a Byonic hero, we find Shadow the Hedgehog guilty. Woohoo! Yeah, Shadow! We gotta celebrate! Hey, where'd he go? What the fuck is going on? Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if I taught you something new. But not if you're ugly. If you want to know more about Shadow's past, I suggest you check out this video by Chalmix, where he documents all the details involving Shadow's past in both mainline and side games. I want to give a special shout out to my best friend Xmark, who is currently doing a full let's play of every single path in Shadow the Hedgehog. So if you're interested in seeing that, go watch it. And tell him I sent you. I linked his channel as well as the others in the description below. I have a list of characters that I want to discuss, but please let me know who you'd want me to cover in the comments. Unless you're ugly. Everybody knows I don't fuck with the uglies. For my next video, I'll be putting a certain strawberry blonde on trial. Can you guess who it is?
I don't need friends. They disappoint me.